What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about something incredibly important, and if you looked at the title of this video before you clicked it, you know exactly what to expect: the Moto X. This is so important. There's so much relevant information that it's probably going to be a longer video, and I may even have to split it in two. If you have even the slightest ounce of interest in the Moto X and the smartphone industry in the next couple of years, please, I beg of you, watch these videos to understand. Now, I don't claim to be a professional. I don't claim to be better than anybody else, but I have a different perspective on it than a lot of people do. So the Moto X, we all know about it now. It's been all over the internet. Even the news, I saw it on CNN. It's crazy how much of an impact this is making, and the phone's not even out yet. So what's the big deal about this phone? We know the specs. We know they're mid-range. It's been causing the biggest uproar possible in the tech world. Why does any of this matter? We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty starting now. Geeks across the internet have just been raging that this phone is so mid-range. Now let's think about this for just 1 minute. We're going to do a little bit of math. I'm going to do a little bit of math for you. How many pixels are there in a 1080p screen versus a 720p screen? So let's take, for example, the HTC One. 460 some odd pixels per inch on that screen. Take, for example, my Galaxy Note 2. Roughly, I believe, high 200s, low 300s. Pixels per inch. Now, why does this matter at all? Power. The biggest problem people seem to have with the Moto X is power. Now, I saw a couple videos, read a couple of different articles about comparing the Moto X head-to-head with other devices. The Moto X actually came on top of the HTC One in a couple different benchmarks and in real-life performance in games. Now, why do you think this could be? Pixels, to name one thing. The Moto X has 8 different cores if you want to call it that. The Snapdragon S4 Pro, it's a dual-core processor at 1.7 gigahertz. We know this. The Adreno 320 GPU, which has 4 cores for graphics processing. A contextual core for contextual awareness, for pulling it out of your pocket and seeing it alive, or breathing as Motorola calls it. So instead of seeing a little flashing light, you can see a notification on the center of your screen where the pixels, it's only these pixels lit up to show you what's going on. That's the contextual awareness, or flipping it over on the table and seeing it happen. And then there's the language processing core, which is that final 8th core. Kind of ties in with the contextual awareness. It's, let's say I have my phone sitting down here on my table, a beautiful table of my hand, and I say, okay Google, now text so-and-so, tell them, hey, I'll meet you there tonight. Things like that, totally hands-free. Now, you're going to hear arguments for and against the Moto X, and ultimately it's a subjective matter. It's going to come to your decision. What do you think of it? That's not mine to declare. But why does this matter? Think about this for a minute. Cars. Cars are becoming hands-free now. You can speak to some cars and say, I want to go here, here, here. You might have to touch a couple buttons on the car's navigation system in order to start that, but that's becoming a reality now. Now, why does it matter that cars are hands-free? Heck, we even have automatic driving cars. They drive themselves. Well, within the next 10 years, a lot of their consumer devices are going to be voice-controlled. And it's creepy, but it's cool. TVs are going to be voice controlled, I guarantee it. You're going to see people laying on the couch feeling American, and they're going to say, switch to channel, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that's going to happen. Now, this is only one region that makes the Moto X so significant. Let's talk about customization. That's a word that's almost not even existent in the smartphone industry. You can change cases. A couple phones usually come in black and white. Maybe a standout color, silver and white, maybe a blue, red. No phone really lets you make it your own. Now, this could be a bit of a gimmick. This could be a way to reach out to the mass market. It's a lot of different things. What I think it is personally is a step in the right direction. I don't personally care for having a multicolored phone. I think I personally would enjoy having a lime green phone, maybe not lime green, but a green phone versus black or versus white. Or maybe a person wants a purple phone. That, unless you have the HTC Rhyme or something of that nature, you don't really have many options. Let's say someone's just really weird and they want to have a different color camera ring and different color buttons, and heck, they want to have a different color front and back at the same time. They can do that. What other company lets you do that? It's not necessarily the fact that a company needs to have that. It's the fact that a company does have that. And some people are going to argue that it's, how do I word it, filling a demand that's not really there. But I think that demand is there, and people just don't know it because nobody's offered it yet. So this is going to have a big impact on smartphones and technology in general. I think a lot of people are going to model themselves after this within the next couple years, just because it's options. One of the great things about Android devices themselves is that there are options. Windows Phone devices, BlackBerry, whatever. Look at Apple's products. You have one line of phones. To say it's good or bad is your decision. And speaking of Apple, let's touch on that for just a minute. Now, you may know me, you may not know me. I don't hate Apple, not by any stretch. I prefer Android phones. My preference. I will not deny, nor have I deny that an iPhone is probably a little easier to use. My grandma's got an iPhone because it's a tray of icons. It's, what's the word for it? I just read it. There's a specific term for it where it's just association by pictures. Pretty much is all it is. What's wonderful about the Moto X in relation to the iPhone is that finally a manufacturer has taken the step that Android needed. Look at an iPhone, it's got mid-range specs by Android terms, heck, even probably low range or low mid-range. You're talking dual core processors, 1.2 to 1.3 gigahertz, their speeds. Now, what does this have to do with any Android phone, specifically the Moto X? Well, what Google and Motorola have done is provided an optimized experience developed for low or mid-range products, mid-range hardware. How does this affect anything? This proves that you do not need quad-core processing power on your phones. I'm not saying that's bad. I think it's great. But it really emphasizes on what the phone does and not what the phone can do. What does that mean? The awareness, the contextual awareness of the Moto X versus my Note 2. I can't slap it on my table and say, do this for me, go here. Probably one of the most, how do I word it, practical uses of this. Say you're driving down the road. Texting and driving is bad. We all know this. A lot of us do it. I'm not going to deny that I've never done it before. Consciously, you know it's not a good thing to do. Setting your phone down in your cup holder. Say you're driving somewhere, you're going down the highway, man, I'm hungry. Google, find the nearest McDonald's. Navigate there for me too. Boom, without doing a thing. Not a single GPS that I know of does that. Not a single phone until now does that. It's paving the way for a little bit safer driving experience. Now, people are still going to be doing this while they're driving. You're still going to see grandparents on their phones texting. I don't understand why. I'm not going to get into that. But you're still going to see that. But it's a step in the right direction. Another thing that they're doing correctly. Another gigantic leap in the right direction. Bringing that manufacturing home. That's a huge thing. This phone's not made in America. It's assembled in America. What does that mean? The parts are outsourced from Korea, from China, from Taiwan, you name it, it's from there. Those parts are then brought to the States, to Texas, where they are assembled together to make the Moto X. Now, why does this matter? This is money going to American pockets to stimulate the economy. Now, 2,000 workers in a Motorola plant is not going to change the world and not going to change the nation. But heck, what other company does that? Isn't it a start? A step in the right direction? A small leap for mankind? American kind, I guess. Now, it's cheesy and it's very minor. But again, with all the crazy outbursts of Apple employees committing suicide or getting injured or whatnot, it's kind of nice to see that there's some company making an effort. Now, there's also a big business strategy to that. There's no way that Motorola would be able to offer the customization and time period that they do if they were to outsource the phones altogether. No way you could customize your phone, well, there probably is a way, but as quickly in China and then have it to your door in 4 days? That's nuts. Texas is a relatively centered locale, and having that right there is one of the biggest key factors to the Moto X's success. I want a Moto X. Me. I want one. Why do I want one? The spec hog, the guy who roots his phones, unlocks bootloaders, is attempting to get into developing. Why do I want the Moto X when, from a spec perspective, it's downgrading from my glorious Galaxy Note 2? For one, I want a phone that's a little easier to use with one hand. I'm not gonna lie. The Note 2 is a bit of a bear to use with one hand. I don't understand why people are making such a big deal about the price. I suppose when you're thinking about it from a spec perspective, it is a little bit steep. It's very steep. $200 on contract. Now think about it in perspective with a couple of the things we've talked about so far. The Moto X, in my mind, is worth every bit of that $200. Why? Well, remember, it's got a 720p screen. Put that side by side with a 1080p screen. Yes, you're going to notice it. A little. Not much. How many of you have ever used your phones and sat there and thought, man, I can see those pixels. It bothers me so much. You don't. Most, not all, but most of the phones currently with a 1080p screen have a quad-core processor. Now, why do you think that might be? Well, remember when we discussed pixels earlier? Yeah, you need more pixels, or you have more pixels, you need a little more power. So that right there explains how the Moto X is able to kind of circumvent that whole pixel and power problem. I was convinced, I was just hell-bent on getting a phone with a 1080p screen next. I had to have it, wasn't gonna budge. Started seeing stuff about the Moto X and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of okay. Nah, I don't think I want to. But then the more I think about it, I'm like, you know, I use my Note 2 daily and I don't see a problem with it. To be able to make a claim, and so far been proven pretty true, that you can have 24 hours of active usage on the Moto X is impressive. It is not necessarily game-changing, but again, one of those steps in the right direction. Motorola is really the only company that kind of focuses its marketing, not really focuses, but focuses its marketing on battery life. Droid Max series, the Droid series in general, is kind of touted for that. So it really bothers me when I see people all over the internet making uninformed assumptions, saying, "No, Moto X, it's stupid. It's for the mass consumer market," and to an extent, they're kind of right. They're kind of right. Spec hogs like myself are probably going to dismiss it. But the more research that's done, the more that the public and that reviewers are able to get their hands on this phone and see what it's about, the more spec hogs are changing their opinions and doing what I'm doing now and saying, wow, I kind of really like that. Now, the biggest issue with a lot of people is that storage. I know right now Verizon's only going to be carrying the 16 gigabytes so far because it's 32 is exclusive to At&t, I think. That bothers me because think about it, with a 10 megapixel clear pixel camera, let's go off on a tangent and talk about that real quick. Well, first off, 10 megapixels is going to be a bigger size, so you're going to need more memory. The clear pixel means 27% bigger pixel. So it's going to absorb a little bit better light. Now, I forget the percentage on the HTC One. It's still bigger, but it's a 4 megapixel, ultra pixel. So for storage, that's going to be a bit of a killer. Everybody's emphasizing cloud storage. If you get a Moto X, you get 50 gigabytes of Google Drive storage for free. I'm not sure how I want to go about this. I don't take pictures too frequently. I'm not a shutterbug. Occasionally, as stupid as it sounds, a couple a week maybe. Stupid things. Videos are another thing. Those take up a lot of memory too. Supposedly you get 12 gigabytes of user available storage. That's after the operating system and everything's thrown in. So let's say you have 12 gigabytes of storage, and you're like me, you got 5 or 6 with music. You basically just cut your storage in half at 5 or 6 gigabytes left. Let's say you download 3 or 4 games. A pretty normal game size is anywhere between 50 to 100 megabytes. That'll add up really fast. Pictures. If you're ever taking a 1080p video, that sucker fills up fast, especially at 60 frames per second, which is what the Moto X can record. That's going to be pretty high. So that poses a big issue. Now, you could also make the argument the iPhone does it, and it'd be a very valid argument. There are a lot of people who have a 16 gigabyte iPhone, and they're perfectly fine with it. Now, to me, that differs a little bit because Android allows for a lot more openness. You can just do more. So, I really don't know how to go about that. Should the Moto X become available at 32 gigabytes on Verizon, I'm going to snatch it up. I'm probably going to take it even if it's got the 16 gigabyte one. Now, speaking of the phone in general, let's talk about price. We had a really unrealistic goal in hindsight. We wanted it to be around $350 off contract. I don't know where those numbers came from or who pulled them, but they seem to just be verified. We were hell-bent. This was going to be the price off contract. And every other rumor pretty much fell right into place. I mean, I can't really think of another one off the top of my head that didn't. Except the price. Now, that's probably one of the most important things that should have fallen into place. But again, talking about outsourcing jobs and outsourcing the parts, you're going to be paying a little higher premium. I personally would much rather pay for a phone that at least has some sort of assembly in the United States. I want to support the country I live in. Now, I realize there are certain times where you just can't afford it. I get that. I've been saving up for a phone for a while. I, as an average consumer, maybe not average consumer, but as an average consumer, if I see a commercial on television showing me, wow, I can use that phone without using my hands? It's got a 10 megapixel camera. That's pretty good, right? Isn't it? What are most cameras nowadays? What, like 12, 13? I could replace my point and shoot camera. Oh, you mean I don't even have to open my phone? I can save the 5 to 10 seconds of clicking my phone, unlocking it, tapping camera, waiting for it to boot up, simply by going, huh. Well, that's pretty cool. And it's partially made in America? It's assembled in America? So I can support my country that way too? And it's the price of another top tier phone on contract? Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I'd go for that. Or say somebody's going into their local Verizon Wireless or At&t store. Hey, I'm looking for an upgrade. Show me what you got. Hey, so this cool new phone right here, you can talk to it, and it'll do what you want it to do. No lie at all. Check this out, ready? Okay, Google, find the nearest McDonald's for me. There it is. Now, tell me what consumer is not going to be amazed by that. That's pretty cool. Oh, and also, not only can you talk to your phone, but it promises about 24 hours of active usage. Even with that feature, the consumer's going to be like, boom, whoa, are you kidding me? I can flick to open my camera real quick. I don't have to miss any more goofy pictures. I'm sure at some point you've all experienced it where, yeah, let me take a picture, hold on. Okay, go. You know, we've probably experienced that before. It's not ginormous, but it's a little thing. Things like the breathing notifications where a certain part of your screen will pop up, or that camera flick. If that's not implemented in the next version of Android 5.0 or 4.4, whatever it's going to be called, I will be shocked. I will be shocked because, especially because Google had a hand in making this phone. Which leads us to, oh no, why doesn't the Moto X ship with 4.3 out of the box? How can it not have the latest version? It's from Google, right? How can it not? Okay guys, Motorola is its own separate entity from Google. Yes, Google owns them. Yes, Google had a part in designing. Their engineers were together. Yes, you're absolutely right. But a Motorola rep came out and said, look, we're owned by them, but we're still our own company. We have as much priority as Samsung, HTC, LG, insert here. We have to follow the same rules you guys do. No other phone line, period, ever, I don't think, is going to have the same priority as the Nexus line and get the updates as fast, except the Google Play editions, which are basically Nexus phones. Think about this for a minute. Yes, and in the long run, if updates are not consistent, it's going to make a lot of people very angry. 4.2 to 4.3 was relatively minor. There were under the hood enhancements that were nice and they're very helpful. But compared to 4.1 to 4.2, you know, there's a lot bigger difference there. There's a decent visual difference. I personally don't care that it runs 4.2 instead of 4.3 because I know soon it's gonna get 4.3-ish, soonish. Now, most people aren't like that. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. But people need to understand that this phone is so much more than something to get Motorola out of the red, because it is, and something to appeal to the mass market, because it is. This phone is posed to change the way we use our phones and change the way that the market views making phones, and ultimately enhance the user experience. This phone is about user experience. Pulling a phone out of the box and having a clean experience, having a smooth experience is going to happen for almost every single phone you own. Period. Right out of the box. It's over the course of time when TouchWiz bogs your phone down and everything you do with your phone. When you have too many pictures. All these things are stacking up together. It's that really kills the phone. We don't know yet if the Moto X is going to last long enough. We don't. We do know that it's been optimized to run very nicely. Heck, better than some other phones. The bezels are tiny on the screen. The phone was custom designed to contour to your hand. The battery was even custom made to fit particularly in that curve so that it fits in your hand better. I wish I could show you it, but I don't have one, unfortunately. I wish. But there are so many little things that Motorola and Google took notice to that when the mass consumer gets a hold of it, they're going to be like, wow, why didn't we ever have this before? This is crazy. This phone just feels so nice in my hand. Look at that. The picture was really fast. Tap. Pew, done. I can talk to my phone. Now, yes, there are third-party apps that are probably going to do a lot of those things. But the mass consumer, they don't want that. They want it built in right there. So the bottom line on this, guys, if you can take one thing away from this, is that the Moto X was meant to change the game of phones. Now, this is just my perspective. I could be totally wrong, but a lot of people agree. I'm going to put a link to MKBHD's video about the Moto X, why it's significant. I thought of this video, of doing this, after I had seen a little bit about the Moto X, and then MKBHD made his video, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who thought that. Cool. Heck, he probably thought of it a while ago when he was at that secret meeting with Guy Kawasaki and all those Moto people. I don't know. I don't claim to make the first one, but I'm not the only one who thinks this. People need to understand that this phone is about changing the market, changing the way we use our phones, changing the game. It really is. Are you going to pick up a Moto X right there? Right there in the camera. Are you going to get one? I'm not saying you have to. You got 2,000 customization options if you're on AT&T. Eventually Verizon will get it. which was the stupidest decision in my opinion. I would think you would want to choose the largest carrier, but then again, Verizon does some weird things. We're not going to get into that. The biggest question that I have in my mind is, should I get the One whenever it hits Verizon, or the Moto X? And I've shuffled back and forth. Yesterday I was convinced I wanted the One. The day before I wanted the Moto X. Today I know I want the Moto X because of all these different features, because of all the different optimizations, because specs do matter, but not as much as we think. Are you going to be running Windows 7 on your phone? No. You don't need, it's cool to have, but you don't need a quad-core processor at 2.3 gigahertz. You don't need it. We want it. It's cool. But when I put things in a different perspective, and I think, why didn't anyone think of that before? Why did it take so long to think of that? It really makes me think, wow, there's a lot more than meets the eye with this phone. And it's pretty amazing. I've covered a lot of what I think is important in this this big video series here. I want to know what you guys think. What's your opinion on anything I've shared with you, and even something maybe I haven't that's just eating away at you? I want to learn through you guys as well. I'm no professional. Maybe someday it'd be pretty cool if you can really get a title of a professional. But this phone means so much to me because it means so much to the industry. And I want people to visualize that and to see that and to understand that. I want to be walking down the street and just tell people, hey, have you heard of this phone? You heard the Moto X? No? Let me tell you about it. I sound like I'm preaching Jesus or something. Because it's going to change the way we use our phones. Like I said earlier, if these features aren't implemented in the next version of Android, I will be shocked. I mean, just blown away. I would be amazed if other operating systems, manufacturers, don't adopt these similarly because they can't copy them directly. I'm really curious to see where this goes. Moto X deserves way more credit than we give it. The question is, are you willing to give it a chance? Not everybody wants a new phone all the time like me. I get that. For the mass consumer who wants a cool phone with the best bang for your buck, I have a difficult time thinking of a single other phone at this time that gives you the best bang for your buck besides the Moto X. All the other phones are great. They're great. But this one, here's how I view it. You got things like the One, the S4, the basically announced Optimus G2, and it would go like this for the next tier, right? I think the Moto X is kind of here. It's not really above per se. It's kind of equal in another realm. For other reasons is it great. We're gonna have to wait and see. And when I get it, I'm gonna look at it inside and out. I'm gonna show you every inch of it, and we're really gonna get into detail about why this matters even more. So I hope that you put up with me ranting for a solid probably 25 minutes. I hope that you learned a couple things, because there's a lot to be taken, not only from my words, but from any article you might watch or read or video you might watch regarding this phone. You got to take it with a different perspective. You really do. So that's all. Thanks so much for watching it, and let me know any sort of opinions you have. I really want to know about this particular topic. Do not hesitate to put any sort of question in that comment box, wherever it's going to be, left or right, down below, even though it's directly down below. Don't hesitate at all. I want to know. Anything from, do you want to buy it? Do you have a question on it? Do you have any concerns with it? Do you have a different perspective on it? I'm all for different perspectives. I have a gigantic phone. I have a different perspective than most people. So feel free. Share the video. Not because I want to get any sort of publicity out of it, really, because I'm not that big yet. I'm not that big, but I want to know opinions. I want people to be informed. I don't want this to go out and to people's eyes because I want myself to be seen, but I want this information to be heard. If I could do that with, I don't know, anything else, I would have tried to have found a way by now. But I feel like this is the most personal way to do it and share information. So share the video if you could. Anybody with questions on the Moto X, doubting the Moto X, let them see this and see what they think afterwards. Give me a like if you could. Subscribe if you would also be so kind as to do that. Because I got a couple cool ideas for videos that I'm trying to make worth your while. I'm getting a nice mic soon, so that'll be a godsend. But, thanks everybody for watching this. It means a lot to me. I get comments that tell me, hey, nice job. Little things like that. They mean the world to me. They make my day to know that people appreciate it. What more can I say but thanks. Look forward to the next videos. Look forward to the Moto X. Look forward to the next few years in the industry. Really do. Peace out, guys.